Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
Hi, I'm back. In 2025, this year, we're going to continue to explore soul growth. And it's probably the underlying theme of my focus in terms of helping you to advance, to think about, to contemplate in a different way what it is for your spiritual evolution, and specifically related to your soul and all the different aspects of what that means in terms of that substance of your life, which I call the soul. In 2025, we are going to be diving more deeply into these simple keys that will elevate mental clarity about how that impacts the soul. We're going to be looking at how you seek more purpose in your life and in your everyday way of being and the experiences that come your way. We want to build a greater sense of you to being thoughtful about what it means for mental and emotional development of yourself from the soul lens. In each episode, we're going to be looking at reflections and things for you to think about. We're going to have content that opens you up maybe in a different way to have greater sense of awareness about what this means and how I can apply it into my life. So there are lessons I think we have in our daily living that we sometimes override. We end up going around the corner and never stopping to see first, do I really need to go around that corner, or do I need to continue to go straight with the way in which I would like to live my life? So basically, we'll be tapping into the deepest parts of who you really are, your soul, the substance of your life, and what that spiritual nature is all about, and how to bring it into your everyday experiences to have more clarity, love, light, joy, harmony in your life, in the midst of some dark clouds that may happen to you, and as well as in the midst of the sunlight that comes out and shines upon you. So I am thrilled that you're along on this journey with me and you continue to move forward step by step as we're moving through this understanding through soul evolution. I'd like to give you an overview of some of the things that we'll talk about and also some practical things you can start to do immediately as we're thinking about these simple keys to soul evolution, the ways of being in your life that can lend you greater spiritual clarity and direction. One area that I'm going to be talking about throughout the year is this power of mental clarity and what it relates to for soul growth, and why mental clarity is so important. In the coming episodes, we'll be diving into how clearing mental clutter is essential for soul growth. You've heard about emotional release, self-compassion, and forgiveness. But what happens you bring still, clear mind to these practices? It is through clarity that we unlock new possibilities. We discover our purpose and make decisions aligned with our soul's true desires because we've had that still part. I'm moving to the next level when I talk about still, which is staying tuned in light and love. But there's different levels of how we may need to stay still. And let's look at them in a more expansive as well as in a more deep way. I'll share simple techniques to help you to step into clarity. Mental clarity is sometimes misunderstood. It's not just about organizing your thoughts or removing distractions. even though it's a part of it, certainly. And I have talked about distractions and how they keep you off balance, but you can hear in the previous episode that I have, and I have the links below. But it's also creating a still, quiet space within your mind where your soul, its true voice, can be heard. When we are able to do that, we're in listening grace. When we have mental clarity, we step into our power. And that means the chatter of day-to-day life, of activities, of worry, of self-doubt, start to fade into the background, allowing you to hear the whispers of the soul. The deeper, truer parts of ourselves often get drowned out by life's noise, just being busy, trying to get things done. Think about a writer facing a blank page. The best ideas don't come when the mind is full of clutter, but when they've cleared space, when they've taken time to silence these inner noises that are happening within the person in terms of what do I need to do today, or I need to make sure I sent an email to this person. I don't like the conversation I had earlier. I'm feeling a little bit out of sorts because of a person treating me in a disrespectful way. We have to find ways to still that noise, that distractions. And many creators, leaders, and even people in high-stress professions like doctors, lawyers, and teachers often find that mental clarity is key to their success. When the mind is clear, they can focus and make better decisions. Whatever role or position you find yourself in, this tends to be true. And therefore, you feel more in tune with inner purpose, what you're about, why you're doing what you're doing. But how do we find this clarity? In today's world, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the constant barrage of information in terms of emails or social media or work demands or family demands that you find yourself in, or you're finding that you're having racing thoughts. To access this mental clarity, we need to constantly clear the space, but we're going to be going a little bit more into it in the future. Clearing that space of the mental, emotional, and even physical things that are creating this clutter for us to not have the space for the soul to flourish. So over the next episodes, we'll explore how to reduce the mental clutter, starting with simple practices like mindfulness and breath work and letting go of the need to be busy all the time. We can be conditioned into this busyness. One of the easiest ways to cultivate mental clarity, which I'd like to give to you today, is mindful breathing. I'm trying to integrate now tools and strategies and techniques that you can do in all of my episodes, which I've done in the past, and I want to continue to do as we're moving in 2025 and thereafter. So what do we mean by mindful breathing? Take a moment to close your eyes. Inhale deeply and count to 4. Hold for 4. Exhale slowly for a count of 4. And then pause for a count of 4. If you do this for 2 or 3 minutes, you will notice how your mind begins to quiet down. This simple technique will allow you to move out of the mental chaos and into greater clarity. This clarity will make it easier to hear your inner voice, your soul's desire, and bring you closer to your true path. Now, the other area they're going to be talking about in some of the episodes is related to the connection between emotional resolution and soul expansion. And as we all know, emotions are the messenger of the soul, but they can be messy. And we're not sure how to read them all the time. When we allow ourselves to truly feel and release these emotions, letting them go in intentional and conscious way, we actually pave the way for spiritual and emotional growth. But usually we don't connect those dots, that there's a relationship to the emotional resolution we're trying to move towards and soul expansion, as I mentioned. In some of the episodes, we'll be exploring how embracing your emotional journey can actually fuel your soul evolution, showing you that healing isn't a destination. Resolution is not a destination, but a constant unfolding that we can move towards again and again based upon the emotions we're dealing with and how we go about releasing those or transmuting those emotions that are working against us. When you think about emotions, they're just not fleeting reactions to situations. They are like messengers from your soul. We also have to realize it can sometimes be messengers from our outer self, which I call the ego persona. We have to distinguish the difference between the two, such as anger or frustration or envy or jealousy. These are some aspects come not from our soul, but from the ego persona and its need for more and more and more attention, or wanting to make sure it's competitive and getting its needs met. So we have to realize, and part of getting emotional clarity means that we also have to understand what emotions are coming from what direction, from within or from without. When our soul is creating these emotional states for us, they're trying to guide us to what is going on within us, to be more authentic to the emotion you're experiencing, and then finding ways to release. Every emotion you feel, whether it's joy or sorrow, anger or peace, is an invitation to explore what is truly happening within you. It's like saying to yourself, what's going on here? Why am I experiencing this? What do I need to know, or what moved me into this situation of having great joy about something, or getting into this sense of being angry or irritated? You may think about why, if this kind of emotional release or trying to gain a greater awareness around it impacts the soul and the soul growth. And we're going to be talking about that in the episodes of 2025. When you hold on to emotions like grief, resentment, or fear, they act as weights, this density that happens with us. We're going to be looking at a little bit more that weightiness that holds you back from your spiritual expansion. You can't, the balloon can't go higher if there's a weight holding it down. These unresolved emotions that may surface within us, that may be in our subconscious mind, which is a part of us that we don't always notice or see, but only experience when they pop up in our worlds. We have to realize that these unresolved emotions can cloud our judgment, obscure our clarity, and keep us stuck in unhealthy patterns. Another way of thinking about this is when we allow ourselves to truly feel and release these emotions, we can create space for soul growth. Releasing old emotional baggage makes room for new energy, new insights, deeper connections to our inner self, our soul self, our higher self, our Christic nature, the mighty I Am presence, the Creator. It gives us the opportunity to have that connection that we wouldn't have had otherwise if we didn't create the space and be curious enough of what's going on with how I'm feeling. Let me give you an example, a powerful example in terms of emotional resolution and soul expansion. The story is with Maya Angelou. Maya went through a tumultuous childhood and faced emotional trauma, but in her adulthood, she used writings, her poetry, poems, as a way to release and process these emotions. She was finding a productive way to use the experiences in her life to tap into a reservoir of understanding of how to communicate to others through poems. Each time she wrote, she not only healed herself, but also allowed her soul to expand and helped others to do similar by reading her poetry. She found through her writings a deeper purpose and truth, which we all are looking for truth and figuring out what is our purpose. But sometimes emotions and the weight of those emotions cloud our ability to see what those things are. Or we can do as she did, use those emotional experiences, the trauma that has happened to our past, or the negative childhood events that have happened to us, or the situations in which we find ourselves moving through our teenage years. And she used it as a way to expand her sense of feeling, to be able to touch into something that other people could identify with. That it also allowed her soul to expand by finding a deeper purpose. And through her emotional journey, she was able to touch the hearts of millions with her words, the cadence by which she said things by, the tone by which she used, the inflections in her voice, living her life in alignment with her soul's calling. Our soul has degrees of sensitivity. And when we tap into that sensitivity, it actually is as if we transcend ourselves. We transcend time. And when you would listen to some of her poetry, it transcended time. Let me give you one thing you can do. One way you can begin with this kind of emotional release and letting go of certain aspects, which moves more into the healing or the resolution process, is by practicing emotional awareness. Start by tuning into your body, and when you feel discomfort or pain or even joy, ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling right now? Because sometimes we can't even identify what the emotion is. We know it's just uncomfortable. But start trying to pinpoint a little bit more what that is and where it shows up in your body. This simple practice helps you to begin to connect your emotional experiences with your body, and it can be a gateway to release old emotions. You see them, you let them out of the gate, you let them go. You see where they're coming from. You can say, you know what? I don't need that anymore. Some feelings and emotional states are old patterns. We haven't consciously or intentionally made the choice to let go of them and replace them with something else, something more of what we want in our life. When we can be able to do that, we are actually on the way of showing greater self-compassion and inner peace. And what I mean by self-compassion, when we treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, we open the doors to inner peace. In this series that we're going to be doing in 2025, the different pieces that I'll be delving into, is that it'll guide you through the practices to nurture your relationships with yourself and with others, so you can grow a greater sense of ease and deep self-acceptance. Learn how to accept others, even though they may be quite different from yourself. Why does this matter? One of the greatest barriers to soul growth is our relationship to ourselves and our ability to show some degree of compassion to ourselves. Many of us can be the harshest critics of what has happened to our worlds, what has happened to us, what has gone on at work, what has gone on at home, how we are responsible, being really critical of ourselves. We can get caught up in cycles of self-doubt, guilt. Even we can get into this self-judgment, preventing us from fully embracing our soul's potential. You heard me say this before. But our soul is confined when we have these strong emotions of negativity. And we open the door when we have a greater sense of peace, tranquility, and harmony within, because we can better hear the voice of our soul and what the soul's prompting is in trying to guide us. So when we treat ourselves with kindness, understanding, and patience, we allow ourselves to heal and grow in ways that criticism never will do in our life. And example of that, consider Kristen Neff. She actually wrote a self-compassion book. And after struggling with chronic self-criticism and judgments of herself, she turned to the practice of self-compassion. She began to treat herself with some degrees and measures of kindness as she would to a close friend. And she starts saying to herself and offering words of peace, harmony, joy, and encouragement to herself. When she started to do this, she began to treat herself with the same kindness. She realized that in this process of compassion that she was showing herself, it simply allowed her to transform her life. Not only did she find peace within, but her work and relationships flourished because she was no longer sabotaging herself with negative thoughts and feelings. Here's something you can do and think about. When you practice self-compassion, you stop feeding the cycle of guilt and judgment and blame and pain. So this is something that you can be aware of in order to help yourself to cultivate greater inner peace. Stop feeding the cycle of guilt and judgment. Where there is compassion, there is love. Where there is love, there is affection. We have these degrees of affection and loving towards ourselves. Instead of trying to fix ourselves, we embrace who we are. Something I've talked about in December's episode, we become perfectly imperfect. We become perfectly imperfect. And this self-acceptance begins to bring greater peace and stillness, creating fertile ground for our soul to flourish. Try this exercise today. When you feel self-critical, pause. Place your hand or both your hands over your heart and repeat to yourself, I am worthy of love, just as I am. I am worthy of love, just as I am. The simple, loving touch on your heart and feeling that warmth that's coming from your hands can touch your energy from judgment and move it to peace as you're breathing in and out. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about in this year of 2025 is discovering more about your soul. As we've been trying to do in all these episodes, finding your purpose isn't a one-time revelation. It is a kind of step-by-step process. It's ongoing. And I'll share strategies to help you connect with your soul's desire and turn them into actionable steps, together with uncovering how you can be on a journey of self-discovery. Discovering your purpose is not a one-stop shop. And times your purpose may change as you change over time. So here's an example. You probably know Louise Hay, and she had wrote the book, You Can Heal Your Life, which became a bestseller. She sold over 40 million copies of How You Can Heal Your Life. And one of the things that we don't know is that she had to reinvent her life and discover her purpose. She came from a background that was very, very traumatic in terms of her living condition, and also she was sexually assaulted at a young age. She, in the midst of her ups and downs, made a decision to change what she was going through, what she was holding on to in her thoughts and feelings about what had happened to her. She listened to her soul calling to share more stories, to inspire others, and to create a platform for change. Louise didn't find the purpose overnight. She allowed it to unfold and became more aligned with her true self. her I am presence, the creator, the Atman that exists within her. When she did this, she realized that affirmations, positive statements that one really believes helps the healing of herself, because she was diagnosed at one point with cervical cancer. And by a regime that she put together that allowed for affirmations, nutrition, reflexology, and some other components she put together, she decided I wasn't going to do the conventional thing. I was going to do what my inner promptings were telling me to do. It actually ended up being she did resolve that issue within herself in terms of cancer. She realized that certain thoughts and beliefs we hold consciously or unconsciously create conditions within our body. And that if we can understand those thought patterns, then we can change them and believe something different, something higher, something better that we would like to have in our life. And that's what she did. When you're aligned with your soul purpose, and she did, Louise Hay, she made a great contribution to the world and to everyone that she came in contact with. Everything began to flow for her. It doesn't mean we don't still have our ups and downs, but it flowed in terms of her purpose, her soul direction. It felt right. She felt guided. Even in the midst of finding that there will be challenges, every challenge becomes opportunities too. You start to be discerning, and you start to make decisions that feel authentic and fulfilling. When we're walking our spiritual path, when we're in tune with our soul and the soul direction of what we want, what is needed in order for us to live our best self and live on purpose. We have to also realize that it's not about doing something. It's about being in alignment with your true self, your soul self, your Christic nature, your I am presence, your creator. In future episodes, we'll dive deeper into practices that will help you discover and act on your soul's purpose. But for now, I want you to think about what lights me up when we talk about purpose. When you think about your ideal day, what activities might you feel most alive with? These are cues by your soul. It's helping you to try to get attunement with, when as a child you really liked this and you did it all the time, and then we forgot whatever this was that you enjoyed doing. Well, maybe pull it back and just say, yeah, I really did. This is something that could be of value in my service to others moving forward. Sometimes we need to take 10 minutes or 5 minutes each day and reflect on what excites you and allowing your answers to guide you in your journey. See what's coming up. Keep a journal to see the patterns that are taking place as you're trying to move forward. These are some of the things we're going to be talking about in the podcast throughout this year. And with each episode, I'm not necessarily a person that goes blow by blow, but I do like to have a general structure about each year and what types of things I'm doing. We're going to continue to talk about simple keys to soul growth, how to move forward with mental clarity, discovering your soul purpose, and being aware of how compassion is so important, and looking at the connections between the emotions that we experience and have, and how it relates to soul expansion or constriction, and also how mental clarity can help us in our soul growth and evolution as all other additional keys to as we're moving forward in our life. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I'm honored to be your guide and also a fellow seeker on the path. As we dive into this series, remember, mental clarity, emotional refinement, self-compassion, and soul purpose are all interconnected. Each small step you take is a powerful contribution to your overall growth and alignment to your true self, your soul self. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.